Welcome to Talking Shop. I am Manny Medina, and I'm here with Kevin Bobowski and Matt Millen.
Hey Manny, hey Matt. I'm Kevin Bobowski. I'm the former CMO of ActOn Software and former VP of ExactTarget.
Hi, I'm Matt Millen. I lead revenue and operations here at Outreach.
So, as you know, account-based marketing, account-based sales is taking over the world. It's moving up really fast. It's the new black. Just getting down to the nitty-gritty advice. What would you tell a brand new demand gen director or VP? He joins company day number one, everything is moving to account-based. What does he do? How does he set up shop? Like, what does he do differently than his previous life?
I think there's two things that they need to do up front is I think number one, sit down with the head of sales and figure out what the measures of success look like for account-based marketing, right? Because it starts to get a little bit different, right? And I think number two then is, we've talked about this, I think you gotta really make sure you're going after the same set of companies and targets. I didn't want to say the story because I think the story needs to be developed from elsewhere in the organization. But I think as a demand marketer, if you need to get measures of success nailed down, and then you really need to understand sort of what is, who are we going after, so you can point your programs. And I think if you get those pieces of data, then I think it flows into how you allocate your budget, your headcount, a lot easier than if you were just kind of taking a random stab at that.
Yeah, I think it's great. The account-based selling, the account-based everything isn't for all your customers. It really pushes up into the higher end customer where you can afford to take that level of precision and excellence in terms of going after and securing that business. But there's the SMB business for so many companies where the demand gen engine is how it's done. So I really think of these as two very distinct piece of business and how you go at them. So from a demand gen piece, that whole inbound piece and where you from a cost-effective perspective, how you aggregate those small customers, because you can't put the same level of effort with an SDR and an AE on some of these smaller deals. That's demand gen.
What's a cut line? What will you say?
Depends on your economics of the business. Like, what's your deal value, your cycle time? I mean, everyone needs to figure out how you cost-effectively do your business. And I mean, you just take a look at retail for a minute. Consumers go to retail. Retail doesn't come to a consumer. Small business tends to shop like a consumer because of the economics. I mean, they're served regardless, whether it's a Staples or a Best Buy, consumers, even Home Depot, great example. You and I go to Home Depot on the weekend, and many small contractors go into the contractor aisle. They go, they're not served. Now, large construction companies, as a rep, you put on your hard hat, you drive out to the site. I mean, it's just very different. Every company needs to figure out the economics, the customer acquisition costs, and where it makes sense to, put your SDR shop and your AE going after from an account-based perspective. Where's that line in your demand gen engine in terms of, creating demand, and then how do you convert?
Yeah. And you bring up a really, really good point here, because I think we've been talking about account-based marketing as an all or none proposition.
That's right.
And I think there's very much this balanced approach as marketers, right? So you might start with an account-based marketing program, but over time, you're going to need to build an inbound capability as you get into more of the mid-market. And I've actually seen this with a couple of companies where they've had some pretty good success, but they've almost seen what their total addressable market will be, and they at the top end, and they need to build more of a balanced model. That's so right. They start to build inbound. And then the opposite happens where you build an inbound model, you start to move up market, and you realize you need to do more outbound.
So if you had a blank canvas, you come in, nothing there, what will you buy? What are the things that you're buying to, assuming they already have some kind of CRM that you're tying into?
Yeah.
What's your stack?
I think it just depends on the size, like the stage of the company. It's almost like it's which demand generation playbook are you going to play, right? So it's sort of like in a sports analogy, if it's 3rd and 13, the play that you will run will be different if it's 1st and 10, right? And I think as a quarterback, you're kind of thinking, you're looking at the field and you're trying to anticipate what the defense is doing. I think one of the real big challenges that demand gen people have is making sure they deploy they implement the right playbook. So you see really early stage marketers come in and they're trying to deploy the playbook that's best for enterprise companies at 400 million, right? Yeah. And so I think the answer is almost take a step back, make sure you got the right playbook, because there's different playbooks for different things.
This is a great discussion. So one of the things I wanted to wrap up, especially with you, how does this stack change in your marketing quiver of tools or quiver of arrows? What are the things that are new that were not around 5 years ago?
I'm starting to see this emerging category around using AI and almost like the Google search algorithms to identify who your target companies are, right? Yeah. And we talked about this before, not, hey, this company is between 5 million and 50 million in revenue. That's interesting, but I think there's a lot more science behind it. So technology around identifying your target market, I think, is really important. I think the second one is, I think lead nurturing needs to be redefined. And lead nurturing today in the most basic form is a bunch of people like us sitting in a room saying, no, I think they should get this webinar link and this ebook. And I think the lead nurture process needs to change so marketing can help sales move deals through the pipeline faster and close more deals. And I think that process is kind of broken right now. And then I think the third thing is marketing enablement and making sure, and I think it's actually tied to number 2, but I think marketing enablement, marketing needs to have sales understand how to use all the marketing content and why it was built in the first place to give them context. So a salesperson can be more like a marketer, and the marketing team can have a little bit more of a sales mindset.
What are what are the tools that you're seeing out there that are doing it right in your mind? There's a lot of them, so I want to get your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a company called Node that I think is doing some really interesting things. I think what you're doing here at Outreach
Shout out to Fallon.
Yeah.
We got you, girl.
I think Outreach, honestly, you guys, I mean, I'm not saying this because I'm on your video here, but I think the SDR process is unscientific and not scalable today. And I think much of what you're doing and building around the product not only helps the SDR model, but I think it helps sales and marketing alignment.
Yeah.
Right. And then I think there starts to become some sales enablement tools out there, or marketing enablement tools. Like there's a company called Velo that I really like, Knowledge Tree, a couple of these others that I think are doing some really interesting things on bridging that gap between sales and marketing and content. And then I think those companies will help start to kind of solve that problem of middle funnel kind of stalling, helping with faster sales cycles, and hopefully closing more deals.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yep.
Any parting thoughts for the marketers and sales fans out there?
We talked about account-based marketing. I think that is an important play for many companies, but it may not be the only answer. And I think number 2, it's when you start to build your MarTech stack and decide on where you invest dollars, make sure you know what you're solving for and not applying last year's playbook or the playbook from 2 companies ago. Because I think that'll be really important in whether or not you're successful or not.
And for me, it's making sure, so with your answer, which is great, make sure you know what you're solving for. My answer will be the brother to that, which is make sure everything you're doing is solving for where you're going, which is the number. So from a sales activity perspective, from a marketing, whether it's home office marketing, field marketing, aligning all the investments, all the activities, all the human cycles into moving toward the goal, solving for the number.
There you have it, folks. We had Matt and Kevin. Great conversations. And with that, we wrap it up. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Awesome. Yeah.
Good job.